He was a barbarian and a senator from South Carolina. His name was Preston Brooks. And on May 22nd, 1856, he beat Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner with a cane on the floor of the Senate in retaliation for Sumner's anti-slavery speech. Historians describe this as the moment the country was pushed to civil war. After the beating, with a thick cane that had a gold head, Sumner was knocked down, he was blinded by his own blood, and he collapsed, lapsing into unconsciousness. Brooks beat Sumner until his cane broke, and then kept going. Well, thousands rallied in support of Sumner in Boston, Albany, Cleveland, Detroit, New Haven, New York, Providence. Over 1 million copies of Sumner's anti-slavery speech went nationwide. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the most influential writer of the time, said after the incident, "I do not see how a barbarous community and a civilized community can constitute one state. I think we must get rid of slavery, or we must get rid of freedom." While Sumner recovered, Southern leaders ridiculed him, accused him of cowardice for not returning to the Senate. Well, the Massachusetts General Court, they reelected him that November, but he couldn't last a day. His recovery took years. During the Civil War, Sumner became the leader of the radical Republicans, who at that time represented the North and were demanding an immediate, permanent eradication of slavery without compromise. Abraham Lincoln described Sumner as my idea of a bishop and consulted him as an embodiment of the conscience of the American people. In April 1865, as the war was drawing to a close, Lincoln proposed voting rights for African Americans in the South, and he was assassinated days later. So Sumner and the radical Republicans, they demanded harsh measures in the South. They demanded more protections, civil rights, voting rights for freed men, and the elimination of any Confederate nationalism. They wanted to keep ex-Confederates from gaining political offices, from undoing the North's moral victory. And over the next decade, Black Americans were voting in huge numbers. They elected 22 black men to serve in Congress, and they helped elect Ulysses S. Grant. Well, the Southern Confederates, they responded with black codes, laws designed to control Americans through a similar system to slavery. And in response, Sumner co-authored the Civil Rights Act of 1865. He did that with John Mercer Langston, who was the founding dean of the law school at Howard University. And that bill passed 1 year after Sumner's death, but it was never enforced. That would be the last civil rights legislation passed for nearly a century. Sumner's friends were always worried about his safety. They warned him, temper your statements. And Sumner left them with this parting advice. When crime and criminals are thrust before us, they are to be met by all the energies that God has given us, by argument, scorn, sarcasm, and denunciation. From the beginning of our history, the country has been afflicted with compromise. It is by compromise that human rights have been abandoned.